This is the key part here. A king, a president, any ruler has the ability to expand the creative horizons and aspirations of those they're ruling through their own creative exploration. Easily, anyone who knows anything about history, what comes to mind is Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher's king. Another person that comes to mind for me, many people talk about Mansa Musa and his wealth and all that he had, but a very Sagittarian thing that he did was go on an exploration. The creative influence, the individual impact a king or president can have upon the people should not be understated. It's huge. It can change the whole vibration of things. This is the true impact of the Leo rising.
Summertime, but niggas cold-hearted here. Block party, fist fights, this time of year. I see a clear vision through these Cartiers. When the beef is cooking up, that mean the llama near.
I'm in the city, sundresses and flip-flops. You ain't gotta ask, my nigga, my name's still hot. Ones chasing fame is lame, and they still flop. Central Park 5 got me wanting to kill cops.
What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be discussing the Leo rising archetype and what it means to have Leo rising and how that understanding can lead towards greater rulership within your own life. So let's get into it. So the objective of today's lesson is to really get you guys to understand the overall Leo archetype at a deeper level, as well as what it means to be a king or ruler or leader, as these are core elements of the Leo archetype. And we're going to find all of that within the rising sign or the natural wheel of Leo. All right. And what I want to do I'm going to reference a lot of things, but right now I want all my Game of Thrones, House of Dragon fans to tap into the comments right now. You know, I'm a huge fan of this universe, and when I'm watching it, because it's dealing with royalty and all of those core elements, you can truly see the Leo archetype at play in various ways. So what inspired this was one of the latest episodes. The current king, Aegon, inherited the throne from his father, which Leo very much so represents the father. And for me, I personally look at the father archetype in various ways, Leo representing one aspect of it. So remember, you take on your father's name. You are a personal sun sign. The sun rules Leo. So with that said, we are all a creative offspring of our father's essence. So within Leo and royal dynamics, one inherits the throne from their father naturally. And then, you know, throughout time, we have these different excursions and things of that nature. But in the show, House of Dragon, you have this king, Aegon, who's recently gotten the throne. However, what we find here is that one can be given a title, but that doesn't mean that person naturally knows how to rule or do the things required of that. So one of the things we can learn from the Leo archetype is Virgo on the second house, meaning that life itself, like yourself, whether you're royal or not, you have to learn how to work with what you are given within life. You could be given a whole fucking kingdom or country, right? But at minimum, you are given a core creative essence, which we go back to the ascendant and is Leo. So part of the major lesson in life and what will be of value to you for any Leo rising or any ruler is to consciously learn how to become more efficient at the job. It's a interesting juxtaposition because you're inheriting something that on the outside, on the surface level, it's like he inherited it. He must be just like the previous, right? But that's not true. What the sun shows us that we're all have our own core identity, okay, which will be influenced by different dynamics. Now, what, like I said, what really inspired me here was within the show, this king he was young, he was new, and he wasn't necessarily respected by his council yet. Now, what's key here is that there is a council. Kings change crowns, but there's always a council that is needed to counsel the king and advise the king, which is also like a Virgo thing, and part of Libra in the third house is that each hand washes the other. Everybody plays a role, right? Everyone has a role to play, and that's very evident within the king's court and all of that. So this fellow here isn't within he has the title, but he hasn't developed the power or how to yield the power or respect rather. So, but and out of a sense of feeling he should be leading or doing more, he puts himself in harm's way, which right now it isn't going well for him. But this is also part of Leo because for the Leo risings out there, you gotta have courage. You gotta have courage, and there are going to be times in which you will need to move off of impulse, off of like an inner belief within yourself. You have to take chances, and through those chances, you ultimately learn, right? What works and what doesn't. Leo to Virgo, very important relationship and grounding of those energies that need to occur for any type of effective leadership in any way. More about Libra in the third house. Like I said, what we find here for a Leo rising is like others matter to you. We're going to see that in the seventh house. But first and foremost, rarely, taking the royal route, rarely do we see an only child born to inherit the crown. There's its emphasis on the firstborn, right? And typically a firstborn male, as it was in the past. So what you find here with Libra is that in the third house is that most kings are naturally tethered to their siblings. Now, what kind of relationships this will be contingent on Venus, okay? But your siblings can assist your ascension or they can get in the way of that. So remember, all Leo risings aren't necessarily going to be first in line to the throne. There may be the youngest who's the Leo rising, and they have a loaded third house with Pluto there, maybe Mars there, indicating like, goddamn, it's a lot of competition here. It's a lot of people getting in the way of me claiming my personal power. So to the modern person, I would say this. I've seen this many times. Leo risings are very connected to their siblings and can either, based on how things shake out, be the natural protector or provider, which can be a form of an identity. Let's say Venus is deposited in Leo, right? So one takes great pride in protecting or being there for their sibling. Or what if we have a Libra sun here in the third house? This could indicate being the sibling, the person with the Leo rising, being the sibling of someone prominent, important, famous. Hope that makes sense. Drop a comment. Let me know if that's making sense. Okay. Moving on to the fourth house. This is where Astrology is just beautiful. And when you ponder on astrology, y'all, when you reflect on it, meditate, these kind of insights come to mind. So Leo rising has Scorpio in the 4th house. Scorpio is a sign of power, right? Where we yield our power from. As we said, kings or royalty inherit from their father, or in this case, family. Karmic power that your family stands upon is what you're coming into. So for those who are of noble or royal birth, this is adding to one's personal power naturally. Okay? Now, when we think about the 4th house, what do we know the 4th house is? Home. Home, literally home in the sense of where you rest your head. A king lives in a castle, a huge representation, physically in this case, of power. So on one level, we know that the power is coming from the family line. In the next physical sense, we see the power. So how this reflects for Leo risings is that based on the family you're born into, it's either going to probably put you at an advantage or a disadvantage. With particular dynamics, we got Sun square Pluto from the 1st to the 4th, family could be intimidated by one's own personal power, or there's a power struggle that one has to undergo in order to rise up and be their authentic self. So once again, I gotta stress this. When we're really looking at the archetypes and the rising signs and seeing how all of this lumps together, this is where you gotta understand the varying degrees of experience, because many Leo risings will be born but into different cultures with different conditioning. So this is my next favorite part of the 4th house. That culture and conditioning based on the family and all those dynamics, geographical location, continents, right? There can naturally be occult attachments within the family, secrets, things of that nature. So there's a lot to be assessed if you are a Leo rising and you have some 4th house energy going on. I always tell them, this comes about often, like people like, well, I don't really know my real father or whatever. In some cases, I say ask questions, but then also pay attention to what you were conditioned, how you were conditioned. Because in some cases, it's not just about the biology, it's about how you were conditioned and what you now believe and things of that nature. So if there are power plays here within the 4th house, it always represents overcoming specific types of conditioning. Okay. So moving on, Leo has Sagittarius in the 5th house. Now, this also is, I think, like a simple translation. So when you are a Leo rising, the sun is exalted in the 1st house. This is an exalted incarnation in the sense of you are without a doubt meant to expand upon your sense of self. So Leo is in the 1st house, but the mission is self-expansion. How do we see the self-expansion? Where is Sun actually positioned and where is Jupiter positioned? Jupiter is going to be the fortune. It's a number of ways this can play out. Like I said, pick your poison. Where does Jupiter end up? Does Jupiter end up in the 7th house? This can easily translate to someone's parent being famous, very famous, world-renowned and loved. Okay? So part of the fortune is already coming from there, and then, as I said before, also showing power coming from the 4th house. The 5th house tells us a lot. The condition of the 5th house, Jupiter's position, all of that is giving us major indications of how easily that sun can shine. So what we also want to keep in mind here with a king in the 5th house influence, this is the key part here. A king, a president, any ruler has the ability to expand the creative horizons and aspirations of those they're ruling through their own creative exploration. Easily, anyone who knows anything about history, what comes to mind is Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher's king. Another person that comes to mind for me, many people talk about Mansa Musa and his wealth and all that he had, but a very Sagittarian thing that he did was go on an exploration, showing off the wealth, but spreading Islam. The creative influence, the individual impact a king or president can have upon the people should not be understated. It's huge. It can change the whole vibration of things. This is the true impact of the Leo rising. So if you're listening here, I've given you a real key thing to understand this. Leo dwells in the first house of this rising, and its natural home is the fifth, and that is being ruled by Jupiter, and it's indicating the ability to create culture through individual pursuits. It's powerful, as to say the least. So I guess with that also I want to just say is some of y'all don't know what the hell y'all are talking about with politics, and I'm no expert. That's why I don't have much to say. But at my core, I know that we need charismatic, true, passionate, creative beings leading others, like Capricorn in the sixth house. Capricorn is a sign of ruling, being an authority. From the dynamics of a king, that is your job every day, to rule, to hold a layer of authority over your environment through structure. And as I said before, this is really a king or a ruler's duty to instill better structure and flow within its society. For the Leo rising, what you really want to know here is that on an everyday basis, you are allowed to fully dedicate yourself to whatever it is that illuminates your soul, right? Wherever you feel like you've been positioned to rule and where you shine and where you're given that expansion, that is where your structure and discipline should come in. So this is where I always say this, for anyone who's an athlete, it's rather easy to cultivate discipline every day, telling yourself, I'm gonna go play this game. Right? So if that is that person, if an athlete is a Leo rising on an everyday basis, they're focused on playing this game and improving discipline, right? Now, if you're a scientist and you're Leo rising, it's the same approach. It's just a different forum. But now if we have energy here in the sixth that is compromised, afflicted, that's not so easy to do. There can be distractions, there can be lack of belief, things of that nature. But all Leo risings have to cultivate a particular layer of self-absorption, which leads to self-discipline. Seventh house in Aquarius. With the seventh house, that is how we are coming across to others. And it's also in the seventh house sense how others are viewing us. So Aquarius is different. It's like, oh, this person is different than everybody. So in the royal sense, the people are the ones igniting the Leo rising with, or the king, with the respect and authority. So there's a balance here that occurs without people to rule, right? In the king's sense, or without them acknowledging that, what is that particular king without something to rule? Now, the power of it in the individual sense for Leo risings is that it's like you are what you're ruling, and by your ability to rule yourself and cultivate creative expressions and shine, it naturally attracts others. So it's a real key thing here with that Leo Aquarius archetype. I always say, Leo, you can't demand the respect. You have to, like, no one loves the sun when it's too hot. We like it when it's just right. So it's like, sometimes the sun gets too hot, but then sometimes sun hits that right temperature and it's like, ooh. So that right temperature equivalates when you are consistently submerged within your truth, within your light. And what always comes to mind, who always comes to mind for me here, is Deion Sanders. I think Deion Sanders plays that Leo role so well, and we naturally all just get inspiration from that. Leo got Pisces in the eighth. A king knows no boundaries. A king has whatever he wants, whoever he wants, how much of whatever he wants. But we should keep in mind, going back to the second house, we all need moderation. And we've known throughout time certain kings could succumb to certain ailments because of that overdoing it or that lack of boundaries. There's more here with this eighth house influence. It is the key. It is how one is being viewed. Part of their personal power is being viewed as an exalted being, a Christ-like figure, right? A sun god, right? There's a divine nature in how that comes across. A large part of why women let the king bed them is because of who he is, of the status, right? All that is Pisces in the eighth. Now, for my other Leo risings, this is much of what I said applies, except you want to focus on having moderation in this area. This can indicate in this lifetime lots of karmic relationships. But when I say karmic relationships, I'm not necessarily saying negative, just in the sense of you're meant to learn from them in specific ways, and they're offshoots of the previous previous incarnations. Okay, and once again, stemming from the sixth house. Almost forgot about this. This is, how a king has a council. More times than not, kings, there's a lot of secrets being held from the king. Okay, the king may also have a lot of secrets. We get to Aries in the ninth. That ninth house, once again, is about blessings and abundance. So Leo risings are really meant to claim their individuality, their natural talents, their gifts, whatever they're given, with a sense of confidence and identification. Okay, you are your truth. You are your best project, and part of that abundance is working on it, working to make it better. Okay, hence Aries in the ninth, Capricorn in the sixth, Taurus in the 10th. Most Leo risings are known for their beauty or their wealth and how they put themselves together. When we apply this to a king, think about it in those times. They were the ones with it, so they naturally, flaunted it. It was part of the public persona. Also, what is attached to the persona is lineage. So for the Leo risings out there, depending on certain positions, moon here, other second house placements, ninth house placements, that can indicate legacy, right? Being attached to things, a part of the family, inheriting part of your status because of your family's influence and things of that nature. Gemini in the 11th. Once again, this is where it gets tricky for Leo rising. Gemini in the 11th, this is like your social network is powered by others and others who are good at what they do, other intelligent beings. But at the same time, if afflicted, this can lead to being gossiped about, others who may not have your best interests in mind, right? Smile in your face, laugh behind your back. So I think for all Leo risings, there has to be a certain layer of self-awareness in regards to how, like, putting trust in others and how others really feel about them, right? I always say the best people are the ones who are real about how arrogant they are and things like that. Versus if you can acknowledge, you're arrogant, it gives others less to say about you, that kind of energy. But when lit up the proper way, say we get Venus and Gemini here or something, other favorable aspects, that it helps the 11th house go, and Mercury moves quick, so can that can really be a positive influence. And then we have Cancer in the 12th. And to keep this simple, there's a lot of resentment towards family. Leo risings tend to have a lot of resentment towards family. Royals tend to have a lot of resentments towards family. Keep this in mind that this may not be someone who finds their personal power within life. Maybe those who have the personal power or are sons of their own universe are shining greatly upon this Leo rising individual. So I think we find a lot of resentments here. In the past sense, a big thing I always take away from looking at history and, things with royalty is that I don't think that many children got the proper nurturing with their mother. They were typically given towards servants, sent away, and then overall femininity wasn't as celebrated or respected. Women or mothers were just seen as vessels to try to get a male heir here. So for the Leo risings, check my video about Cancer in the 12th. There's a lot of karma there with parenthood and stigmas around being a deadbeat. So, all right, y'all, tap in. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Check out my website if you need a reading. Check out my new album, Sun of Gemini 2, my book, Astrology of the Matrix. Until next time, peace.